Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading's in-person and virtual Sunday worship service. I'm Sally Lieberman, your Director of Lifespan Religious Education, and my pronouns are she and her. We are an intentionally inclusive congregation, and thanks to social media, we serve communities north of Boston and far beyond. We welcome you, no matter your age, gender identity, sexual orientation, differing abilities, religious background, spiritual beliefs, or political perspective. If this is your first time with us, I would like to extend a special welcome. If you haven't already, please look at our webpage for more information about UUCR. Here you can find details about our church community, sign up for the weekly newsletter, and find the contact information from Melissa Martin, our Member Services Coordinator, who can answer any of your questions. If you are watching this service during its initial broadcast at 10 a.m. on Sunday, May 29th, please join us after the service for conversations via Zoom. This is a great way to keep connected and to check in with others within our church community. The link to this Zoom meeting can be found in the weekly UUCR newsletter. Our Share the Plate tradition is dedicated to giving half of each Sunday's collection to nonprofit organizations that share our UU values. While the offering will take place later in our service, I want to let you know that this month's recipient is the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee Emergency Response Fund for Ukraine. With millions of Ukrainians displaced by the Russian invasion, UUSC, through its Emergency Response Fund, is assisting refugees fleeing Ukraine for Hungary and Poland. It is partnering with two grassroots organizations in Eastern Europe, the Hungarian Helsinki Committee and the FEM Fund. We hope that you will be moved to support this effort generously through your contributions. On behalf of all involved in today's worship, I want to thank you for being with us this morning. You belong here, and we give thanks that you are joining us today. Welcome.
I'm Deborah Weiner, your Transitional Ministry Associate. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I join in welcoming you this morning. Our opening words this morning come from the writings of the African poet Barago Diop, who lived from 1906 to 1989. These words inspired the song Breaths by Issei Barnwell, as performed by Sweet Honey and the Rock, and also our choir here at UUCR. Those who are dead have never gone away. They are at the breast of the wife. They are in the child's cry of dismay, and the firebrand bursting into life. The dead are not under the ground. They are in the fire that burns low. They are in the grass with tears to shed, in the rock where whining winds blow. They are in the forest. They are in the homestead. The dead are never dead. I invite you now to join Sally and me in our chalice lighting words, which will be followed by our children's affirmation of faith. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. We are Unitarian Universalists, the Church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Friends, I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and to join in singing the great Appalachian hymn, Bright Morning Stars, number 357 in your gray hymn book. If you are joining us at home, there is a link to the words in the chat.
Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is a breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear mothers? Oh, where are our dear mothers? Oh, where are our dear mothers? Day is a breaking in my soul. Sowing seeds of gladness, sowing seeds of gladness, sowing seeds of gladness. Day is a breaking in my soul.
In just a moment, Ethan is helping me with Time for All Ages. Ethan, I need to explain a little bit about where we're going and what we're doing. Yes, thank you. Come right up here. All right. Thanks for helping. Some of us have a long weekend this weekend called Memorial Day, a time set aside to remember those specifically who died in military service for our country. It has a long history, and if you visit a cemetery this weekend, you will see flags, U.S. flags, planted at graves of folks who have served in any of the armed services. That's the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, and others. Often you see special symbols for those right on gravestones. Often people visit cemeteries on Memorial Day and leave flowers for loved ones, sometimes for veterans. That would be people who have served in those armed forces, sometimes for veterans that have died. Often people leave flowers on Memorial Day for any of their loved ones. I grew up with this tradition. I would visit graves all around Massachusetts throughout the month of May with my family, and we would plant geraniums, red and white, at the graves of almost everyone we knew who was related to us. This was a big deal, packing the tools, the shovels, and the watering can, planting stakes, and of course, getting the flowers. Our first stop was the farthest trip from us. For us, it was in Lancaster, Mass., where my ancestors are buried. They were here in the early 1600s, and some of them still have gravestones left. Ethan is going to walk around and show you all a photo of the grave of my ninth grandfather, Thomas Sawyer. You can go now, Ethan. Thank you so much. Thomas Sawyer sailed here from England as a young man with his brothers Edward and William. We always thought they came for religious freedom. That was the family story, but I really don't know why they came. I know that they were really brave and that they worked incredibly hard to clear land and build houses. Their name was Sawyer, and that meant they truly were skilled sawmen. They really did cut wood, and they really did build sawmills all over New England. They may even be responsible for deforesting our landscape. Tom left his brothers, who stayed at the ocean in Rowley, and made his way to the western outpost of the Bay Colony, and was a founder of the Lancaster settlement, which is now Lancaster, Mass., about an hour's drive northwest of here. He married and had 11 children, probably more, but we know of 11. He and his father-in-law really did go about building a town. I grew up with these legendary stories of Tom and his brothers and his children and their children, all the way down our family tree to me. For us, they were heroes and soldiers in every war this country ever fought. Some lived, some did not. There were a lot of graves to visit, a lot of places to plant flowers on Memorial Day. There were a lot of Sawyers, and there had been a lot of wars. I grew up knowing that I was fruit on Tom Sawyer's family tree. Our family was the stuff of legend. We were a founding family, meaning parts of us, quote, founded this country. As I grew up, I would learn more about the nations of people that lived here before Tom and his brothers arrived. And I would learn that Tom was a partner with indigenous people in Western Mass, and that he traded with them and they cut wood together. I learned that the colonists worked extra hard farming rocks instead of eating the various seasonal foods from the forest, the way the indigenous folks did. And then I learned that Tom, my Tom Sawyer, was part of the first battle in King Philip's War. King Philip was an English name assigned to an indigenous sachem, a leader whose true name was Metacomet, who tried to negotiate land agreements with the white English settlers and believed that the indigenous people were being cheated. He didn't negotiate directly with Tom, but did begin his war at the Lancaster settlement. Many people, both indigenous and settler, would die, including some of Tom's own children. The town would burn, but Tom's house would stand, something that was given to us in legend. The war would last a bit longer, another year, until King Philip lost his family, his life, and his battle. We know that the settlers continued expanding, taking more land, removing anyone in their way. We know that the indigenous people were forced out of their own ancestral lands, and I know that some of that land became part of my family legend and prosperity. And I know that Tom and others in my family were part of that. I inherited Tom and the stories that were given to me. We have all inherited the history of our country, which includes the genocide of the indigenous people who were here when the European settlers arrived. I don't decorate the graves the way my mother and my grandparents did. I decorate my parents' graves. Occasionally I visit Tom's grave, and I think about him a lot as I learn more about my place in this moment in time. I wonder what he might say to me if he knew how this all turned out. I wonder what he would feel about how our country formed, about all the wars that followed, and where we find ourselves today. I wonder how he would want to be remembered. I visit cemeteries. Maybe you do too. Sometimes they are just beautiful places with stones and sculptures and usually lots of grass, and so many stories of so many people buried there. How would you like to be remembered? We may not be folks who end up buried at all. Some of us will, some of us won't. We may not leave behind a stone or a marker, but we do leave behind our own stories. How would you like to be remembered? I think I would really like people to remember that I did make good soup. I'd like people to remember nice things about me. I wonder if you think the same. Maybe people will remember our kindness and our funniness, and hopefully say the nice things. Thank you, Ethan. We're settling into our prayer time now. Thanks for showing everybody the picture of Tom's grave. Each week, we get close to our prayer by lighting our candle of community that reminds us that we are a community of memory and hope. And in that community here, we think of those in the sanctuary this morning, those in our virtual realm, those who are far away, and those who have passed on. We pray for those among us with broken hearts, and we hold them near to us in body and in spirit. And we open our hearts and minds beyond these walls to hold a world that is hurting. A world where children are lost and parents mourn, where people plead for safety and reason and help. A world where the sweetest, most precious moments of life are meaningful and not forgotten. Today we pray hard out into our world, drawing on our own reserves when others are tired, committing ourselves again and then again to creating a world where all of creation's children are safe and loved and well.
Friends, it is good and right that we should pause to remember and to celebrate the lives of those who have made ours more meaningful. Whether recently gone or passed into mystery generations ago, sharing the elements that are a part of who they were helps to tell their stories. And through telling those stories, they live on. So let us begin this time by coming forward as music plays to bring those elements that you treasure, that made your loved ones, animal and human, the stuff of beauty and meaning. As you bring those elements up, please feel free as well to pause and to light a candle of joy, of celebration, of concern or care. You are welcome here. Thank you for sharing your memories, your remembrances, your prayers through these simple acts. Please join us now in a responsive reading. Sally will begin with one side of the room. I will respond with the other. Those who are joining us through social media, please choose whichever part you wish to read. This is They Are With Us Still by Kathleen McTeague. It is number 721 in our book, but the words are printed also in your order of service.
In the lives we lead, in the ways we move forward and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living.
It is right to name the power of lives well loved and well lived.
We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same rhythms of the earth.
They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be.
Those who have come before us have not melted into the dust or disappeared.
They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady now.
Their words, their kisses remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage, companionship, and love evoke our own.
We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hearts.
Let us pause now. Let us pause now. Sorry.
We take them with us.
We take them with us into the unknown future, where their memories burn bright in our hearts.
Let us pause now and take time to name those who lent strength, beauty, and depth to our lives. And with this, friends, we pause for a moment as you are invited to speak the names of those you want to call into memory in this gathered community. For those joining us via YouTube, please feel free to share them in the comments. Let us pause now in silent reflection as we hold all those named and unnamed in our hearts. Deep gratitude to Rold and to Joe for their beautiful music this morning. Thank you. Years ago, when my kids were young, we had gerbils in our house. Too many gerbils. Way too many gerbils, like 28 of them. We had started with a pair, and we thought that they were the same sex, but they weren't. And things happened. My husband, Ben, had built some cages for them and connected them, and before you know it, we had a gerbil condominium complex. And then it just got out of control. We found out that the pet store, where the whole thing had started, accepted baby gerbils back. So we decided to load most of them into the car in a cage and head for Acton and the pet store. And since it was a nice spring day, we decided that we'd also pack a picnic lunch and make an outing of it. Now, my family has a sort of tradition of having picnics in cemeteries. For years, on the first really nice spring Sunday, we'd bring a picnic to church, First Parish in Lexington on the Battle Green. And after worship, we would spread a blanket in the historic burying ground and enjoy it, looking at the trees and the stones and thinking about the people who are at their final resting place, much like Sally described earlier. So, on Gerbil Saturday, we figured we'd teach our girls something about literature and local history and go to Sleepy Hollow Cemetery in Concord at Poets Ridge. We also thought it was a little warm to leave our pets in the car while we ate, so they came too. We hung out near the graves of the Alcotts, talking about them and all the amazing artists and writers who had lived during that time, and also talking about transcendentalism in Concord. Someone passed by us eating our sandwiches and stopped when they saw the gerbils. "Oh, we always bring our pets on picnics," I cheerfully said. They looked at me like I was a bit mad, and probably it was a pretty eccentric scene. Just the Soul family, their picnic, and their pets on a nice spring day by the graves of those who they had admired. Well, okay, it was a bit weird, I'll give you that. And yet, not really. What we were doing in the 1990s was really borne out by the same practice that has inspired Appalachian people living in remote hollers in the mountains of North Carolina, Kentucky, and other parts of the South to honor their beloved dead in similar ways. Decoration Day has been a treasured part of life in Appalachia and many other parts of the U.S. as well, that typically occurs on a weekend in late May or June. It has brought families and friends together as they packed a meal and headed down seldom traveled roads, up mountains, and into cemeteries that might not have visitors at other times during the year. Armed with trowels and shovels and brooms, clippers and potted or artificial flowers, maybe flags and stars and other mementos, they've cleaned graves, brushing away old leaves, weeds, and they've made those resting places beautiful and fresh once again. And in those places, they told stories, played games, sang together, often the kind of music that you are enjoying here today, and shared memories of their loved ones, holding a mini reunion with friends and family. One resident of Appalachia observed that Decoration Day is both a religious event and a celebration of life, where people pray, sing, share a meal, commonly called dinner on the ground, tell stories, and reconnect as a community. Another person recalled, leaving items that a person enjoyed in life is a common way to connect with the dead. Angel figurines, inspirational sayings, and everything from fishing lures to work boots are often displayed. Shepherd's crooks with hanging ornaments are now common, allowing people to leave more items without getting in the way of lawn movers. And I can tell you that in the case of my husband's ancestor, Silas Soule, who was instrumental in the Sand Creek Massacre, the memorial includes a full bottle of bourbon. It was a common belief that every grave should be decorated, even those of total strangers. Decoration Day participants felt responsible for all the graves in a cemetery, and this consciousness helped transform Decoration Day from a personal act of remembrance to a community event. While it is sad to think of those beloveds as gone, it is also a gathering of renewal to come together to honor and renew our connection to them. Someone said, the character of a community is revealed in the way it honors its loved ones. Decoration Day in Appalachia and Memorial Day, as we know it, is a time for such reflection. And although I've been sharing thoughts about what occurs in Appalachia, these celebrations are not unique. In rural New York State, I can recall my own visits to the graves of my grandparents and other family in a small cemetery in Otisville, New York. And the wish to clean up the graves of my loved ones was an act of real connection to my family, and an opportunity to hear stories from my cousin about other relatives who are only a dusty memory for me. There are many common threads here, some surprising ones. In fact, Decoration Day in Liberia, yes, Liberia in Africa, follows similar paths and is observed in March. These observances of the beloved dead, including sharing the foods loved by those gone, decorating graves, singing songs, gathering the family together, these practices are also connected to Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead, a practice in Mexico and other Central American countries. There are certainly similarities here. Dia de Muertos is dedicated to a goddess known as the Lady of the Dead, or La Calavera Catrina, the stylishly dressed skeleton created in the early 20th century to embody this celebration. While there may be visits to cemeteries to visit the graves of loved ones, more common are the building of altars in the home, containing the favorite foods and beverages of the deceased, as well as photos or memorabilia. These actions are all intended to encourage visits by these souls so that we will hear the prayers and comments of the living directed to them. Think of what we have built here today as our own altar of remembrance. Literally, these celebrations are a gathering of all souls. Now, Dia de Muertos occurs on November 1st, and it is appropriate for that day, also known in Christian liturgy as All Souls Day. The gatherings can be humorous, as celebrants remember funny events and anecdotes about the departed. And the intention is not only to remember, but to create a warm welcome for the departed who may feel comfortable returning to such celebrations. If you want to find out more about Dia de Muertos, or you just want to have a good time, I encourage you to watch the 2017 Pixar film Coco, which is about a young boy's celebrations of the Day of the Dead. And there are elements of other countries and cultures that also honor our beloved dead in different ways. While many cultures choose autumn, at least in the Western Hemisphere, as the time for such gatherings, when the harvest is in and the barren ground is imagined as giving passage to the souls lying beneath it, there are gatherings in Africa and China, the latter occurring in late April. The Qingming Festival also introduces celebrations by Buddhists and Taoists of Ghost Month, when they believe their ghosts and spirits come out from the underworld to visit Earth. Similarly, the Bon Festival is a Japanese Buddhist holiday held in August to honor the spirits of departed ancestors. So there are many roots to these celebrations around the world and through many faiths. While All Souls Day and All Saints Day are decidedly Christian, they stem from the ancient Celtic holiday Samhain. And although Jews don't have a parallel observance, it is true that when we visit the cemetery of our loved ones, we lay not flowers at the grave, but stones on top of the gravestone to signal our presence and our remembrances of the individual who rests there. And there is another part of our own U.S. culture, and one with a more troubled history, given our continuing struggles with race and revisionism, that also exists in the southern United States, and it must be mentioned here. Confederate Memorial Day, also known in Texas as Confederate Heroes Day, and in Tennessee as Confederate Decoration Day, is observed in the South in the spring. It is a holiday created to remember the estimated 258,000 Confederate soldiers who died fighting against the Union Army. It is an official state holiday in Alabama, Mississippi, and South Carolina, and it is commemorated in Kentucky, Florida, North Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, Louisiana, and Virginia. Several states celebrate it on or near April 26th, when the last major Confederate field army surrendered at Bennett Place, North Carolina, in 1865. In the first recorded observance of the event in Macon, Georgia, Union graves were decorated as well as Confederate. But given that the war that ended slavery really has not ended all these years later, you can well understand, I suspect, that thinking about a holiday to recognize Confederate soldiers specifically may be a disquieting notion for some. And in Texas, to this day, Confederate Heroes Day is an optional day off for state employees, acclaimed in 1973 to honor Jefferson Davis, Robert E. Lee, and other Confederate heroes. We must reflect, as Barago Diop's poem quoted at the beginning of our worship today says, that those who have died have never left. And in this case, that also means recognizing the legacies of a war that in many ways continues to be fought to this day. And Memorial Day, as we call it, that began 3 years after the Confederate observance. At least 25 places claim to have held the first such observance. What we know for sure is that in 1868, General John A. Logan of the Grand Army of the Republic called for a decoration day to remember fallen soldiers, which was widely celebrated. By 1890, every northern state, perhaps in response to the previously established Confederate event, had adopted it as a holiday. The world wars turned it into a generalized day of remembrance instead of just for the Civil War. And in 1971, Congress standardized the holiday as Memorial Day and changed its observance to the last Monday in May. And I note that women played a significant role in organizing all these remembrances, not only making sure there was food and flowers, but also gathering people, leading songs, telling stories to make those lives continue to exist in the hearts of their loved ones and newcomers as well. Now, frequently, Unitarian Universalists, myself included, will tell you that we do not believe in the afterlife, that it is the words and deeds that we offer here and now that inspire and sustain us, and that when it is done, it is done. What is left are the memories. But those memories, that act of honoring those who are gone, that is the way they continue to live, not on a cloud in some far-off sky, but in our minds and in our hearts. Those experiences we've shared, the lives they lived, the games, the stories, those things need not and indeed should not ever die. It's been this way since stories were created in ancient time, many of them told via the oral tradition rather than written. And if we don't tell those stories, they cease to exist, and along with them, the lives of those who created them. Recently, as some of you know, I was in Alaska, in a town called Skagway. When the Yukon Gold Rush started in 1897, those who were looking for riches gathered in the port of Skagway and had to carry a year's worth of food and all their belongings up the Golden Staircase. 1,500 steps carved out of ice through the mountains. It took many trips in the middle of the harsh Alaska winter toward an uncertain and sketchy future, and it will not surprise you that many of them died. I was able to visit the burying ground in Skagway with wooden hand-painted grave markers surrounded by crude fencing, marking the final resting place of those who sought a better life, along with their wives, their good time girls, and yes, their children. There are stones there and questions too. The markers call us to consider those lives and to pay homage to their quest for the golden dream. On this Decoration Day weekend, I hope that you, whether you are in this sanctuary or joining us via social media, will take a few moments. And if you can get out, do that. Roll or walk to some place where there are memories. See what you discover about who rests in that place or what you observe near the grave. For me, it will be out in our yard under the forsythia bush, where our beloved cats, Pippin and Macintosh, are held in eternal rest. And after that, it will be the New Hampshire and Maine shore, where the ashes of my parents have been scattered, now many years ago, in sight of Star Island. I'll make sure I share a story about them with someone. And I hope that for you, you'll make time to share one about your loved ones as well. Through these simple acts, they live on in our hearts and in our memories. And so in this way, as we decorate their graves, we may also hear their voices speak and sing once again. Blessed be.
This congregation is blessed by the gifts, large and small, which are shared by the members and friends of this congregation and which help sustain it. As I noted earlier in the service, we share today's offering with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's Emergency Response Fund for Ukraine. Thank you for your support, which we accept with great gratitude.
Let us pause in life's pleasures and count her many tears as we all sup sorrow with the poor. It's a song that will linger forever in our ears. Oh, hard times come again no more. It's the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered too long around my door. Oh, hard times come again no more. While we seek love and beauty and music light and gay, there are frail forms fainting at the door. Though their voices are silent, their pleading faces say, oh, hard times come again no more. It's the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered too long around my door. Oh, hard times come again no more. come again no more.
I will share with us our congregational life from Melissa Martin, our member services coordinator who is away today. Please check our online calendar or the weekly update for this week's opportunities to gather online or in person. Our June newsletter came out this past Thursday. There you will find lots of upcoming events with special invitations, including some for Pride Month. You'll also see a reminder for lay leaders to attend our final program council of the church year this Wednesday evening via Zoom. Please be in touch with Paula Tucci for any questions. You are all cordially invited to the ordination of Jenna Crawford, youth alum of UUCR who bridged in 2013 to the Unitarian Universalist ministry this Sunday, next Sunday, June 4th. You'll find information on how to attend that ceremony in person at First Parish in Needham, UU, or via Zoom. We send our very best to Jenna, a source of tremendous pride for this congregation, as she carries her UUCR roots into ministry with her as she begins ministry with the UU Church of Marblehead this summer. The Ivy Court and the Governing Board invite you to a free concert next Sunday, June 5th, from 3 to 5 p.m. here in the sanctuary. Let's show Pamela Means a great turnout to support her message and work. Her program is an intergenerational community event, part performance and part presentation. It will explore the origin stories and lineages of protest songs, how their meanings and impacts continue to transform through time and space, and how they have inspired and continue to inspire movements and cultural shifts within the realms of racial and social justice. In addition, Pam will share her own experiences with becoming an artist and using her voice. A curated assortment of original songs and select recognizable covers will be integrated into the presentation as a powerful demonstration of how grounding, unifying, and mobilizing protest songs can be. The concert will be open to the public, so please bring your friends. Masks will be required. Friends who are joining us online today are invited to join our Zoom social hour for conversation facilitated by David Adamson, and those here in the sanctuary are invited to stay for refreshments and conversation outside out back. Thank you for being a vital part of our congregational life. We ask you, as you wish and as you are able, to lift your voice and spirit as we sing our closing hymn, number 18 in the gray hymnal, What Wondrous Love.
To To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow mend, with thanks unto the end I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end I will sing.
Please join in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. Friends, our closing words come from the poet Mary Oliver, who wrote, "To live in this world, you must be able to do 3 things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go." Amen. Please be seated for the postlude.